Hello again everyone, welcome back to the channel and to part 2 in my What the Romans Introduced to Britain series. Now last time we looked at animals and plants, but this week we're looking at something slightly different. Because if you've ever gone down a road in Britain and you've thought to yourself, this one's particularly straight, and you wonder why it's so boldly going through the countryside, well, the answer possibly lies 2,000 years ago. Because when the Romans conquered Britain, it wasn't all about military victory, it was also about infrastructure. So this week, we're looking at Roman roads. In order to fully understand Roman roads in Britain, you first have to understand the mind of the Roman military. So to the Roman military mind, the most important thing was efficiency. So the thing that they were looking for in a road was the shortest route from A to B. And also have a surface that was easy to march on. Gradients weren't too much of a problem, so long as the legions were able to march up and down them. With this in mind, the first roads built by the Romans in Britain were primarily for the army, with the goal of swift movement. They could connect to forts, bases, ports, making sure that the legions could move swiftly, and make sure that they were easily resupplied in hostile territory. The story of Roman roads in Britain starts in Kent, at the landing ground of Richborough. Now Richborough wasn't just a port, it was the symbolic gateway into the province of Britannia. There was a monumental marble arch built there that had the first Roman road in Britain built underneath it. And this Roman road was the one that introduced legions and traders into the wider world of Roman Britain. From this starting point in Richborough, more roads were built as the conquest advanced, connecting to places like Canterbury, London, Colchester, and also to ports like Dover and Chichester. But I know what you're thinking. How did the Romans possibly build such incredibly straight roads in such rugged terrain? The truth is, most Roman roads weren't actually one piece of continuous straight road. Instead, they consisted of smaller segments that joined each other at points of high ground. And when they did join, they created astonishingly accurate alignments, often for dozens of miles. So what equipment did Roman surveyors use when creating these incredibly straight roads? Well, chief in their arsenal was a thing called a Groma, an important piece of sighting equipment. It consisted of a cross-shaped frame with vertical lines coming off each end. And what you would do with these vertical lines is you would align them with markers, normally beacons on hilltops. And by doing this, the Romans were able to create incredibly straight roads over vast distances. It's likely that a team of surveyors, all equipped with a Groma, would work from beacon to beacon, and if they came across a large obstacle, such as an exceptionally large hill or a river, they would actually divert around it by creating new alignments, before they would make their way back to the original course of the road. Now, evidence of these diversions still exists today, such as at Watling Street, where the road skirts the River Medway. Of course, surveying was the easy part. The difficulty came with the actual building of the roads, and build them they did in staggering numbers. With surveying complete, construction began, which consisted of a number of layers. First, the Romans dug a trench along the length of the road. They then filled this trench with an initial layer of large stones, rubble. They then put on top of this initial layer smaller stones, gravel, and then on top of that they put a mix of sand and lime mortar. before finally capping it off with large paving stones, which were slightly cambered in order to make sure that there was drainage into ditches either side. By 180 AD, Roman officials had built a core network of over 2,000 miles of road that connected cities, fortresses, provincial centres. And many of these main roads still exist today, with roads like the Fosse Way, Watling Street, Ermine Street, the Stane Gate. Still incredibly important roads in our network today. Now here's the astonishing thing. That core network of 2,000 miles doesn't take into account the smaller roads that went to things like villas, villages, religious shrines, and all sorts of other things. Historians and archaeologists are still hotly debating the total mileage of the Roman roads in Britain. Some suggest a figure as low as 2,500 miles, whilst others at the top end suggest 10,000 miles. Though myself personally, I think that's very doubtful. That would mean that Roman Britain would have one of the densest road networks in the entire Roman Empire. Now obviously, Roman roads weren't only used by the Roman army, they were also used by others, such as the Roman postal service or the cursus publicus set up by Emperor Augustus. Messages and government dispatches could be taken by courier on horseback along major roads to staging points where the courier could rest up and change horses. By doing this, they could take a message 30 miles in a day, which in the ancient world is quite impressive. It meant that Roman Britain, in this context, could be connected to the wider Roman world. So who actually built the roads? Well, the initial responsibility for that fell to the Roman legionaries, but later on it was handed down to local Britons, who would use civilian labour, sometimes free, sometimes enslaved. And in terms of actually funding the road network, well, that fell to local authorities through taxes. The Romans also introduced the milestone, a stone pillar that was placed roughly every Roman mile. Now this stone pillar, it didn't just have distances on it. It could have names of emperors, governors, even dates on it. All things that have been incredibly useful to modern archaeologists. Straight roads had other advantages too, not just being the quickest way from A to B. They were very easy to measure, which was not only useful for navigation, but it was also useful for Roman administration. It meant that they could measure the land either side of the road and assess taxes more efficiently. And where there were curves in the road, the Romans used an invention called the odometer. As described by the Roman engineer Vitruvius, this mechanical device was attached to a carriage wheel and designed to drop a pebble into a box every Roman mile. And at the end of your journey, you simply counted the pebbles, and then you would know how many miles that road was. The military and administrative use of the roads was only just the beginning. Traders took full advantage of the road network, hauling their goods across the province and into the wider Roman Empire. By doing this, the Roman roads were also transporting fashion, culture, and new ideas, transforming Roman Britain into a truly Romanised province. Today, the legacy of the Roman roads in Britain is everywhere, from motorways to A-roads to footpaths, all following alignments laid down by Roman engineers 2,000 years ago. Their straightness, their logic, their ambition, shaping not only the Britain of antiquity, but the Britain after the Romans left. But thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, it helps immensely, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.